welcome back. It's still the Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM, the voice of the people. This morning, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at the ongoing face-off between the federal government and ASUU over the 2009 agreement. That's how many years back? That's exactly 8 years that agreement was signed. And of course, we will begin to look at some of the terms of that agreement. You see that it's a very long list compiled by ASUU and the federal government then uh, assented to actually implement those agreements. But have they been able to do so? No. As a matter of fact, this is like, I think, the fourth time that ASUU will be going on strike because of the same 2009 agreement. That is, if my memory does not fail me. What? I tell you, so it's looking more like a World Cup, actually. But it's a very serious situation if you look at it. Of course, we've decried the death in the education sector in Nigeria, looking at the substandard and lack of quality of education, and of course, the graduates that are churned out yearly in the nation's ivory towers. So there are so many issues. So some have also pointed fingers at the lecturers and of course ASUU, saying that they are only after allowances and the money and their welfare, forgetting about the equipment, forgetting about researching, which of course will go a long way in revitalizing the economy. And of course, that could translate or metamorphose into industrialization, into boosting the economy. Talking about manpower and of course ideas that could lead to industrialization. We look at all these issues, the back and forth, blame game, and of course the position of the federal government that it's almost very impossible to implement all this agreement uh, or all the demands of ASUU. Some people have said that the demands of ASUU are so unrealistic, and so we might need to come up with something of a compromise, sit at the negotiating table to tinker with that agreement, or better still, you begin to implement the agreement piecemeal because of the prevalent economic situation in the country. Nigeria is actually trying to, totally shed the economic recession title or nomenclature that has been deviled it for the past 1 year. All right, we have two gentlemen in the studio, and we're looking at this together, looking at the agreement, looking at ASUU, how they are going about it, what other options do ASUU have to actually make their demands, uh, get to actually make the federal government meet their demands. What other options? Are there other options than strike? Should they begin to tinker with that agreement? Should they renegotiate that agreement? What should the federal government do? Is it that federal government is just paying lip service to implementing that agreement? Or is it true, as some have said, a former Minister of Education, Dr. Obezekwe said recently that ASUU's demands are unrealistic? And people believe that that is someone who should know, going by the fact that she was a Minister of Education. On my right is Oyedele Azeez, Comrade Oyedele Azeez, former national president of NAOS, so that is the National Association of Ogun State Students. And I also have on my left here Deji Ogundimu, a public commentator and analyst. All right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
All right, let me start with you, Oyedele Azeez. Azeez,
Yeah.
on the surface, what do you make of this continuous strike action by ASUU?
Thank you, Professor. I mustn't lie to you. In fact, almost everybody are seriously tired of this strike action. From time to time, as we have said earlier, that it has turned to a kind of World Cup 4 years program. It has really disturbed so many things, progress of students and the university academic settings. Ordinarily, there's nobody in this country that would preferably love the way these things are going on because it really affects the educational sector. And when we are talking about primary, secondary, all those ones are still, let me say, minor one, though that is the stage, the initial stage of education. But when we are talking about the university and the others, tertiary institutions, is a very key one. And merely looking at it, everybody is so pathetic and tired of how it's going. And who to blame? Do we blame the government or the ASUU themselves? So it's another thing. Because if I said I wanted to blame ASUU, probably I may have a parent who are lecturers in the universities. If I say, okay, I wanted to blame the government, maybe somebody is part of government who was also my parent or my relatives, one way or the other. But we must say the reality about this issue. Like you have said, the former Minister of Education, Egwuonwu, said that the ASUU's demands are unrealistic. Not totally everything is unrealistic.
Now, if you were to look at the demands by ASUU, uh, one after the other, would you say that truly these demands are unrealistic?
Well, not every one of it is unrealistic. There are some that does not, it doesn't portray the egocentric part of the ASU. If you should look at it, that okay, fine, ASU are clamoring about their welfareism, the insufficient facility in the school setting, inavailability of so many other things that should couple the progress of the educational settings in the universities. Other way around, there are so many other things that I think shouldn't be part of it. While okay, like somebody saying, okay, we wanted to get allowance for conducting an examination, this and that. Like, if you look at it, why were they employed to carry out such things? All these are being a part of things that okay, like writing a post jam, all this and that in universities. Okay, fine. If you ask them at the end of the day, okay, why do you want to do this? They say, okay, those who conducted the exercise, they have to give them extra allowance for not doing that thing at the academic period. So that is an extra charges. They wanted to do this, they wanted to do that. But not every one of it. Those that happen to be the one that will affect generally in the universities, I think those ones are very meaningful and key ones. But the other one that we look at is more or less a personal interest. Okay, this is the way they think that they can satisfy themselves. I think other ones now also are fighting about the issue of their license for quite long. Though they've really paid for that, all those ones, if government think that okay, they don't want to give that thing to them, they shouldn't have asked them to go and pay some amount of money which they have fulfilled for quite long and something like that has not been given to them. Like that one is a realistic issue, a matter that I think the government should try to listen to them and give to them. Well, mm, actually, actually, I think going on strike it is not the best way, but it's like the issue that the president or the government understand is strike to an extent. But meanwhile, I think that is not the best thing, and I'm not satisfied. And at the same time, actually, at present, I'm not a student, but this is what we think we have undergone because I was somehow affected sometimes ago about this issue of ASU strike. When I had to write my examination in the next coming week and ASU go on strike, I have to spend another 6 months in the school writing my final examination. I didn't say the ASU are totally justified of going on strike because they should also imbibe another way of dialogue with the federal government, carrying out some stakeholders who are definitely involved. If only us who are fighting for a particular thing, then they leave the non-academic staff. They believe they are not concerned. But meanwhile, these people are also having another way they are contributing to us one way or the other. The student themselves, you say you are fighting for students, they don't have this, they don't have that. Where will students have a mouth or an opportunity to say truly what you are fighting or what you are talking about, we are really negatively affected of such thing? It's not there. And the top part of it is this, okay, wanted to go on strike, fine. If they have anything they wanted to put before the government, they wanted to satisfy them at that level. I think the National Assembly is they usually pass the bill, I mean the budget of education sector. I think they should try to also consult them whenever the budget is being getting to the National Assembly or wherever. Okay, fine. This thing that you have given to educational sector is not enough. At least we have their complaint here and there. They said they need it, they said they need that. Totally, they might not give totally the money to them. Sometimes you go ahead about okay, having like 1.3 trillion that the government owed ASUU, and sometimes they go 200 billion was being paid to them. Can anybody see as a student or any other people feel the impact of that 200 billion in our educational universities or settings?
Thank you very much. The issue of ASUU strike is becoming a very big problem for both Nigerians and the government of the day. ASUU as a kind of association is very synonymous with strike. Anywhere you call ASUU, even if a 10-year-old should hear ASUU, you have to put strike for you to actually complete the very brief. That is on a lighter note. Uh, what ASUU is asking or are asking the government is not out of place totally, because most of this thing has to do with their welfare, and not welfare in terms of their taking care of their social indulgence or stuff. You can imagine a lecturer or a professor of about 60 something year old having a class filled with over 3, 4, 5, 600 students without public address system, and these are the kind of issues they are putting at the fore as far as the agitation is concerned. I was also aware of issue of pension, the pensions of lecturers. There was a time we have Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund and other government agencies serving as pension management companies or organizations. But on under our very nose and in our very eyes, we have seen a total failure on the side of this pension management organization, both in private and government uh, setup. ASU decided that they want to have the kind of opportunity to take care of their pensions themselves by having a particular association or a particular body that will be taking care of lecturers' pension scheme. And at a particular time, when I was trying to follow the issues of contention between ASU and federal government as far back as 2010, there was a time the federal government asked them to kind of like what we had in the banking sector, that there's supposed to be a kind of minimum threshold a bank could have to be able to operate. I think federal government has been able to raise the bar when it comes to the requirement for lecturers to have their own kind of pension arrangement. It's like telling them you cannot operate, you cannot have you don't have the capacity to take care of all the universities in Nigeria and stuff like that. You have to have a minimum of maybe 10 billion naira as your capital base. They couldn't meet up at a particular time. They strove, they did so many things, and they met up with this particular requirement. Government has been able to shift the minimum capital base for this organization, for this institution, more than once. And all these things are the kind of agitation being presented by ASU that government has not uh, deemed it fit to honor their words whenever they go into agreement with the government. And this time around, they are trying to appeal, because I was listening to the ASU chairman of Uniben chapter this morning. He was being kind of, you know, showing a kind of sense of humility in presenting their agitation. So I don't think their agitation and their request is out of place.
Okay, now let us look at one bright side of this. So the Minister of Education, Madam Adamu, admitted that federal government actually failed to meet its part of the agreement reached with ASU. And he said that in January, the president, on the orders of the president, there was a renegotiating team that was set up to actually interface with ASU to look at the agreement and tinker with it. one of the major issues that the ASUU are talking about is the issue of end allowances. All right. And also the issue of registration for Nigerian Universities Pension Commission, which you talked about. There's an issue with the Nigerian Pension Commission that they are yet to sort out. And the issue of the staff school of the universities also is an issue. But we understand that the court has given them the verdict to go ahead, and they also asked for TSA to be exempted from the TSA in the university. And I think that is one of the major issue because you know that the president ruled on the toga of anti-corruption and no-nonsense corruption yen. And one of the bright side of his administration and policies is the TSA, which is curbing free flow of monies at MDAs and government institutions, uh, and of course curtailing corruption to an extent. And the universities are saying that exempt us from TSA. Now AFCC is being decentralized on universities across the country. Now, if you look at all this together, do you think that very soon federal government and ASUU will be able to resolve many of these major issues, and even if the federal government refuses to listen to the plea by ASUU that universities be exempted from TSA?
Let me start from the issue of TSA. You see, Toby, when we make laws, there should be a kind of flexibility in implementing these laws. The laws are made to uh, correct so many things that a particular government perceives to be wrong or trying to, kind of emulate or adopt as a policy. The issue of TSA, in all fairness, is a very fantastic development in an area of trying to curb the issue of corruption, which has been a very big problem for Nigeria since time immemorial. But as far as this issue of TSA is concerned, there should be a kind of flexibility. There are, so I believe, some institution or some organization or some sector of the economy should be exempted, as ASUU has actually said. See, I want to believe the issue of the university having a kind of autonomy has to do with them generating some kind of fund for themselves and for their upkeeps. Let's put it this way. If there is anything that has to do with the government, as far as TSA and ASUU is concerned, if not totally exempted, there should be a way to kind of fast tracking whatever has to do with ASUU. I want to believe is a kind of misplacement of priority as far as education is concerned. Education, there's supposed to be a kind of emergency declaration on issue that has to do with education. It is affecting our human capital development a great deal. There are so many things that are wrong with our educational system, and I don't see any sacrifice too much for a government that has a kind of political strong will to improve on our education. Education is supposed to be a master plan of every responsible state government in Nigeria. Federal government is supposed to prioritize education. I'm not saying they should be given ASUU or educational institution a kind of blank check, but there should be a kind of controlled policy that will take care of things that has to do with the roles of federal government as far as funding of the university system in Nigeria is concerned. Toby.
Well, one issue which I also want us to quickly look at is the fact that the students usually are the ones who suffer when the strike is on. Now, is there any alternative to strike action by us?
Toby, I used to believe that it is not possible for the political class to have a kind of mentality that what we are going to do is that we are going to kill the educational system so that there will be poverty, there will be ignorance on the land, and we will continue to treat them sheepishly, and as the number of illiteracy and the level of poverty and illiteracy They are the kind of yardstick to measure the development of a country. I don't want to believe that when we were going to school, when we were in school, I was in a class with children of bank managers, commissioners. I can mention names that we were in the same class. If there's any issue that has to do with maybe inspection not coming, inspectors from Ministry of Education or some local authority, local education authority are not in school to come around to do something, or the school are in need of some things. I have witnessed a class teacher saying, see, tell daddy. The teacher was talking to the daughter of a commissioner. Then we were in the same class. Those were public schools then. So at the death of public educational institution, I don't want to believe is a kind of deliberate attempt by the government to keep people, out of government and reasoning to have a say in what is going on with them. Because I don't believe there should be a right thinking person that will not prioritize education in 2017. Whatever the case is, gone are the days when they used to have children among us in Nigeria schooling. Even the least paid politician will not have, if they have the opportunity, they will not send their children to public school. I used to boast that my school, my primary school, my secondary school, I have a younger brother that used to tell me, but Deji, you are always telling us that your children are going to attend St. John Primary School, Kuto, and St. John's High School, Kuto, and Afrograms. But now what we have now, I don't believe I want to, let them go through what we are seeing. Children about 60, 70, 80 something in classes with a single teacher with, almost non-available facilities for good education in our public schools. So I don't want to believe this is a deliberate attempt by the government. But as a matter of urgency, education has to be reformed, and everything that has to do with education has to be on the front burner as far as development in Nigeria is concerned.
All right, now part of the reason that ASUU gave for the strike is the fact that in that 2009 agreement, in 2010 was it? The negotiation started in 2008 when Dr. Obiseki was the
Minister for
it was
Education.
2007. Yeah, when she was the Minister for Education, and it was agreed that 26% of Nigeria's annual budget will be pumped into the education sector. How realistic is this? With a country that is so populous, over 180 million people, different sectors that need attention. We've been grappling with the security issues, Fulani herdsmen, kidnapping, armed robbery, militancy in the Niger Delta, Boko Haram, the Northeast, which have taken a large chunk of our security budget. When you look at that, can we really budget 26% of our national budget to education?
If education is to be prioritized and given its right place, like I rightly said, I don't think that is too much to budget to education. All the myriads of problems you just itemize now as being the problem of Nigeria, most of them are caused and perpetrated by the youths. A misguided youth with no plan to take care of his or her future in place, who are not in school. Definitely they will make themselves useful in some disadvantageous ways possible and available to them. Don't forget all this issue of kidnapping, ritual murder, so many things that are happening in Nigeria. 77.5% of them, according to my own little ways of trying to look at analysis when it comes to events that are happening, youths are most involved. And I want to believe youths that are kind of enticed or try or kind of pampered or lured into going to school, encouraged to go to school, will reduce drastically the issue of all the crime and problems we have in Nigeria.
Would you advocate that we reduce our budgetary allocations to
Education.
sectors, no, to sectors like security, economy, telecommunications, for example, and then focus more on education?
we wouldn't say that that analysis you raised now is as if you rightly believe that if a particular budget is centered on education, it will have a kind of negative effect on other sector. See, if Nigerians have the will to turn the table around as far as education is concerned, it's going to be our collective responsibility. We will start thinking of how can we kind of contribute to this. It's not about money. How can we contribute? What can we do to better education or to improve education in
Mr.
our
Deji,
neighborhood?
you see, this is my point. Yeah, you can increase budgetary allocations to a sector. All right, you can say, okay, we want to budget about 500 billion or 1 trillion naira of this year's maybe 8 trillion naira budget to education. All right, don't forget, there are Nigerians who are lining up the different offices and positions in the education sector, from the minister to the minister of state, to permanent secretaries, to directors, to the VCs of universities, to the registrars, and so many chain of commands you have. Now, so you can budget a whole lot of money. Money can be pumped into these universities. That translates
To development.
to development. Will that translate to quality in these institutions? Will that translate to better educational sector or better quality of the students?
You are taking us back to the issue of corruption. When money is allocated and the money is not spent for the appropriated reason or cost, I think the money will not, on their own go to different departments to take care of things. They have to be administrators and people that will have to implement whatever policy the money was meant to, take care of. I want us to have something at the back of our mind. If we have a razor blade and we are not in any way blind or blindfolded, we will not run our finger or any part of our body on a razor blade. That is the kind of analysis I've been given anything that has to do with issue of corruption in Nigeria. So many people, legal luminaries, a lot of people believe that the laws are there in Nigeria. Are they implemented? Do we have right laws? This takes me back to the issue of the police pension fund that was embezzled by a particular person, and the person stole as much as 7 billion naira or something. At the end of the day, the guy was asked to pay less than 500,000 naira as fine. So where are the laws? Where are the laws that are supposed to take care of this? I was talking to a retired chief justice of a particular state, and the man was telling me that, see, this man committed a crime, and you have to follow a particular book before you can. That is, from that book is where you're supposed to get whatever punishment you think. You cannot use your initiative and say, this man has committed murder, okay, or this man has raped an underage, so this man should be tied to the stake and stoned to death. You have to follow a particular book. So it is what that book stipulates. You cannot go outside that. That book we are referring to is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, Azeez, you were once a student, just like you said earlier. Led us into the ruts in the institutions before you graduated. And of course, I would want you to quickly speak. Of course, it will be speculation. But of course, your opinion is very, very important. Why do you think university lecturers are asking the federal government that they should be excluded from the Treasury Single Account, TSA?
Oh, I want to believe that this is more or less as if we are still talking about the issue of corruption. Fine, as far as I'm concerned, I've heard my other counterpart about the issue of corruption and why they should be given a kind of flexibility as far as that levy is concerned. But to my own understanding, there was a saying that usually says it is a slave that makes us to abuse so many other slaves, as in Yoruba. They said, fine, this is a kind of trust that have been given to some people who are the commander of a particular sector in education, probably a VC or whatever, and they misuse such a kind of opportunities. You understand? Okay, you are being given or allocated, as you have said the other time that, okay, fine, if you are being given 500 billion for educational sector, and at the end of the day you cannot find the importance and the advantage of that kind of money in the sector, one way or the other, when we look at it, why they say they should be exempted is because maybe they don't want them to see how the money is being expended one way or the other. Fine, that is my own belief. Because fine, if a particular university or vice chancellor is in charge of a particular school and they have their role to play to provide so many other facilities, because all this money we are talking about, still some of them still have subvention they got from the state government or the federal government as well. But at the end of the day, sometimes they go, I knew a particular institution in the southwest here in which all the money they gather from the school, you understand, is being expended on the management one way or the other, not caring about the school facilities or the student themselves, you understand. And at the end of the day, we also see somebody who has been replaced such people, and what you rightly see is that the person was telling the government that fine, look, we are capable of running the school issues anyhow we want, and we are going to do it perfectly, that we don't even need so much money, even the money that we're going to use to pay salaries and other things to provide facilities. And within just few years you can see how transformed such an institution is. That was a person who wanted to do just, and who I think doesn't care about wanted to get money from the government, and they believe that what we are getting, we can use it to do what we're supposed to do at the appropriate time. I don't agree with the issue of they are being exempted from uh, TSA, because I think that is only avenue. And recently, everybody was aware of a particular institution in which their head was being held by EFCC and all sorts. What has happened? Fine, before you became an you get to that office, it's you know the way you are living, you understand. But having that opportunity beyond other people whom I think you are fighting for such a kind of post, the next thing people will see in a very few months or a year is your own betterment, not minding the place where you are being headed one way or the other. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not total. It's just that sometimes ago, when we were in primary school, secondary school, we do normally have a kind of what do you call these people that usually monitor the school activities, probably supervisors or this and that.
Inspectors,
So
that
the
they come to
inspectors,
school
you
regularly to
understand,
check the
come to school
activities of teachers
regularly.
and students.
Thank you. But nowadays, there's something like that. If that should be the case, federal government as well, they can also establish that kind of a committee or whatever, that okay, we have given them so amount of money, go and see. But the other side of it is that when they get to the school, you see them, giving them a kind of money that, see, this is your own take away.
Let me come in from there a little bit. Let's look at it like this. The issue of corruption still goes back to what you said could prevent the implementation of exempting the university or the ASUU, whatever, from TSA.
Yeah.
See, let's put it like this. When corruption is tackled head front, genuinely and sincerely,
Right.
we will have so many things in place that will serve as deterrent to anybody that is trying to play some silly things with government money. Who told you now that the money in TSA is not being mismanaged or could not be mismanaged by the person in charge of taking care of this money? There's nothing like that. But once we have a kind of assurance, a kind of law that will stringently hold anybody found culpable, responsible, and dealt with, everybody will have to sit tight. If anybody tells you, Mr. Azeez, if you step out of this place and you did not go straight to your car and you are found wanting, you could be delayed here for the next 3, 4, 5 days with hard labor. You are going to do accordingly, just what you are supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have some diehard criminals. But let me tell you this again. The issue of TSA is not the way we are saying it. Let's say University of Lagos want to conduct an examination and they need money from, let's say the money is supposed to come from TSA, money that's supposed to, from the school that went into the TSA, and they need the money between now and 3 weeks. It is not as easy as write a check and get money from the Central Bank of Nigeria. It is procedural. You have to follow so many things. You have to go through so many process.
Yes.
They are going to delay a lot of things. That is why if they give them the authority, if they exempt them from TSA, let them be giving them 3 billion naira every second. They must make the money accountable. Once there's accountability and there's law to deal with corrupt officers, everybody will sit tight.
Now let us quickly aggregate these opinions and come to an agreement on what the TSA is aimed to achieve. Don't forget, it's a treasury single account. It means that there's only one dedicated account that an institution of government will be using, an agency of government will be using, instead of some ministries that have multiple accounts with different banks. We've had cases whereby an agency will have about 69 or even 90 bank accounts, and it becomes very difficult for you to trace revenue and of course monies that are actually budgeted in that particular ministry or that particular agency. But what this is doing is that all the monies are pulled into a single account, which is domiciled in the CBN. All right, and so government can actually track its revenue.
That is where law still comes in.
And so many of these top officers or public officials in those institutions, who actually what they do is that when the budget comes in, the budgetary allocations comes in, they keep some in some account, and at the end of the year, because the budget year is over, and they have to go for more allocations, whatever is left in that account becomes theirs, and then they share. So that becomes a difficult thing to do with the TSA, and that is why you had so many resistance and rejection of the TSA, and then the problem of the anti-corruption crusade really started from the implementation of the TSA, if you recall. Now, we'll take this short break. When we come back, we'll continue. We'll take up from where we stopped as regards how to really fight corruption in the nation's habitats, vis-a-vis how to drive development and make sure that federal government pays more attention to this, to the development of the nation's institutions, the university, and of course, welfare of the lecturers and quality of the students that are churned out yearly. Stay with us, we'll be back. Citizens for the Daybreak Show, this beautiful Wednesday morning, the 23rd of August 2017. This morning, we are looking at the total strike action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, as regards the non-implementation of the 2009 agreement signed and assented to by the federal government. The federal government set up a renegotiating team to interface with ASUU in January 2017. And that negotiation team is still in place. Negotiations are still on as we speak. The Minister of Education is saying that they will be thinking with the agreement to see how they can move forward. But there are causes and quarters that ASUU is being unrealistic about its demands. How true is this? What are the options? What exactly can we do to tackle the rot and death in the education sector? And how can we drive development and provide quality as against quantity in the case of churning out graduates yearly in the nation's avatars? I have in the studio Oyedele Azeez. He's the former national president of NAOS, that's the National Association of Ogun State Students. And I also have in the studio Deji, Ogundimu, a public affairs analyst and social commentator. Your issue, which we have talked about, is the quality of the graduates. If lecturers are not happy, they are not well taken care of, they can't transfer that happiness, that quality to the students. And so you continue to have half-baked graduates every year. And that will also increase the number of people in the labor market, and the percentage of the unemployed Nigerians in the country will continue to rise. So you see, it's a very long chain of resultant effects and problems. How do we nip this in the bud?
Thank you very much, Tobi. So many issues as regards the issue of educational funding in Nigeria has been discussed, papers submitted, but having said and done all that, there should be a kind of sincerity on the side of government in finding a lasting solution to actually take care of our economic sector. like you have said, I don't think any government in anywhere in the world should relegate, so to say, to the background the issue of education. Like I said the other time, I don't think there's any sacrifice that is going to be too much to, because education we're talking about is the background, is the backbone of any development. So that is why I kept saying that uh, government has to find a way. I am not saying ASU should be given an overdose of whatever that could be tranquilize them or make them call off the ASU strike, or tone down their agitation, which I don't think is realistic. But I will implore the government to, as a matter of urgency, set up committees, look for ways. We should prioritize education. The attention we are giving to other sectors, such as agriculture and other sectors of the economy, they are good and welcome development. Education should be included. Emergency should be declared on education, and we should find a way. Government this time around should find a way of making education a bedrock of our society, as is being said.
Aziz, what's your take on that? How can we improve on both the welfare and quality of what is being taught and of the quality of those that we churn out yearly?
All right, thank you. As Mr. Deji has already said the other time, that fine. It's not say that government should try to tranquilize all what they also are requesting for one way or the other, because they do normally say that a hungry man is an angry man one way or the other. There is no how the effect of this ASU agitation will not be there on the students, and automatically the output of what is being taught on students and the graduates annually. As you can see, sometimes ago I could listen to it, a particular news that in the world, all the best universities in Nigeria, medicine graduates, they are nowhere to be found in any part of the Europe country or whatever. Even they did not meet up with the top class of the graduates. So imagine. So automatically, I just want to, as Mr. Didi said the other time, that okay, probably there should be an emergency setting up of an emergency committee that will totally, if government is not going to accept the issue of exempting ASU from the TSA, purposely because of maybe corruption, and otherwise it also has an effect on the economy. Probably if the ASU or whatever is being given an opportunity, being exempted from the TSA, so many other things will roll out, and there will be a benefit to the masses one way or the other, not by giving them money, but the availability of the money, probably where the ASU or the universities are keeping their money, where they will have a kind of monitoring committee, like emergency committee, that will totally take care and respond immediately whenever ASU needs or the university needs money to fund the education in their schools. Like, for example, now probably they wanted to build or a kind of a school was being buildings was being collapse in a particular schools. They have to go through so many disturbance process before it can be achieved. I just want to implore the government, one way or the other, they should try, if they are not going to exempt ASU or university from the TSA, they should set up a kind of committee that will tackle the issue of inavailability of facilities or insufficient lecturers, lack of or low number of lecturers in schools, and also see to the affairs of the student, because that is the result of the lecturers or ASU that we are talking about, because it is what was being imparted on these students that will make out the output of what we are talking about the education in our society.
All right, at this juncture, we'll
It's part of our life. It's part of humanity. But I have a problem with ASU. TSA is not to be exempted from TSA. Who doesn't want to be exempted from TSA? Why don't you exempt the hospital from TSA. What is it they are doing, which is more emergent and hospitals are far away of living? What is emergency in what they want to do because they want to be? They have 3 weeks to apply. And they not just done that. That's how the thing is. You are talking as if TSA came with Buhari. It was an attempt to solve a problem, which the university was part of it. Look, my friend, look, some people have said they prefer to be vice chancellors than to be governors because there is too much elaborate in being a vice chancellor. That is it. That's the truth of the matter. There's so much. Vice chancellors lot, fleet of cars, all sorts of things. If you are flying out of the country, you go by first class, and the university pays for it. That is what they want us to continue doing. That's what they want us to continue doing. People are talking of, oh, they are not being funded. Oh, if you give them this amount, 26%, oh, you are going to give them. They should not give them 26%. Oh. Because you know what they will do? They will buy cars. FUNAP, I'm talking, I'm mentioning it. The amount of cars, used FUNAP-related cars, is more than the amount of cars in the University of London. It's more than the amount of MIT, Massachusetts. The cars, you have a loan. If you give them billions now, they will change it to jeeps now. And they say they need jeeps. Very soon they will say they don't want to be under EFCC because they're universities. What are we talking about? The university should subject themselves to the laws of the country. If not, they leave it. Number 3, accreditation. When you go to accreditation, when you want to accredit courses, these same lecturers go to other universities and borrow things and bring it down. And then they accredited, they return those things and start complaining. Accredited that, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. Why did you borrow from University A? That is the time for you to show that we're serious. We don't have A, we don't have B. But they borrow it. Do you know why they do that? Because they are part of the morale. They enjoy it. There's a lot of fraud going on at universities. And I'm not saying every university. Let's get it correct. Too. But the universities themselves must start thinking. Many universities abroad don't use government funds. They don't need it because of research, because of whatever they are doing, because they are relevant to society. What happened? Some of us, the universities behind us, cannot even feed us. We can't buy rice, we can't buy meat, we can't buy anything from them. And they are now disturbing us all over the place with their substandard degrees that are awarded. For goodness, they should be very careful. That is why private universities are going day and night, and people are going there. Very soon they will become irrelevant in government universities. For goodness sake, go look at private hospitals, just diversify universities, federal universities. For goodness sake, let them sit up.
All right, thank you.
They have the right to go on strike. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Okam.
Thank you very much. 0809868734.
Tweets. Tolu Nokoya tweeted this: when I was in school, we did so many inconclusive experiments. We had obsolete or no instrument for practicals. # fund education. Elder Abdul Emmanuel says, I don't believe the demand is unrealistic. We all have eyes to see the less important things government uses our money for. Education is key. Why the agitation of unrealistic demand? The government knew all this before reaching agreement with ASUU, so let them fulfill it. Of course, we are tired, but government have to help education system, make it a priority. We all know how our politicians lavishly spend our money. All those tweets are from Elder Abdul Emmanuel. The only language Nigerian leaders understand is that in dialogue is strike. Which other way can also fight their cause? The government must take education serious. That's still Abdul Emmanuel. Professor Agola AA says ASUU can never keep quiet, getting salaries and no tools and equipment to work. The struggle is beyond salaries and allowances. The public must know this. Nobody has provided alternatives to strikes, which ASUU has not adopted before embarking on strikes. Do we have listening government? It is sad that people like Azeez, who should understand the struggles of ASUU better, fail to do so. We are in serious trouble. Was Azeez happy with the environment and conditions under which he studied? Is he a full-baked graduate? When did he graduate and where? Professor Agola AAA tweeted all that. Kudos to the second guest. I understand the problems in universities and the struggles and agitations of ASUU. Thanks for enlightening the public. That's still Professor Agola AAA. Alright, Adio Yebuluwatife tweeted this. ASUU's reference to politicians' profligacy, which to them meant that government can meet the demand, is unfortunate. ASUU can stand firmly against such primitive acquisition of wealth by politicians instead of trying to get their own share of the cake. Okay, and that's Adeoye Boluwatife. I'm waiting for that day when ASUU will lead the campaign for a drastic reduction in cost of running government in our country. That's still Adeoye Boluwatife. Dolani Roberts says the federal government believes that education of its citizens will make the nation wealthy. They should do the needful. Naira is devalued and we can't say it's helping us as a nation. They shouldn't devalue our education system. Alright, Yemi Da Vinci says, I think that ASUU purposely are making grandiose demands, knowing fully well that they will have to cut down on it in negotiations. ASUU should stop the noise about TSA exemption, in my opinion. They should rather seek for the TSA system to be more refined and fast. I do not think 26% is too much of a yearly budget to spend on education. The problems we have are mostly due to lack of education. That's Yemi Da Vinci. Tolu Okoya once again says university calendars are not the same, so there can't be anything like striking during breaks. Alright, Adeoye Boluwatife says, where will government get the money from when we have less than 30% capital budget? Eye for an eye will make everyone go blind. Yemi Da Vinci once again, government needs to fund education. The generation of Professor Shibaju enjoyed free and cheap quality education. We owe our children this also. Alright, let's quickly go to our Facebook page. We have Debo Ali Gafar saying, good morning. This is Comrade Debo Ali Abdul Gafar, the President, National Association of State Students, Lagos State University Chapter. As much as we will suffer for whatever ASUU is demanding, as much as we will stay out of class for a countable number of days or months, we appeal to them that they should stand their ground now and collect whatever is necessary from the federal government. Schools need to be funded. There is little facility for students in classes. ASUU shouldn't back off now. They should collect whatever is needed now. Alright, that's Debo Ali Gafar, Comrade Debo Ali Gafar, the president of NAUS, Lagos State University Chapter, supporting the ASUU strike. Let's quickly go to the short group messages and then we return to, okay, we allow our guests to react to the issues raised. This one says, once those politicians can take care of themselves by riding exotic cars running into billions of naira, why should other career officers be deprived of their legitimate rights? ASUU strike is legitimate and the federal government should immediately do the needful holistically. Cosmos from Goshen Estate and Ashero sent in that. Abiodun says, with due respect to, okay, Abiodun, you will have to resend this message. It has nothing to do with what we are discussing this morning. I think Azeez is being selfish for not supporting ASUU's actions. Is it best for students to learn under bad? Is it the best for students to learn under bad environment? Government admitted they failed agreements for 8 years. ASUU has waited more than enough, meeting legislators before strike, uncalled for, involved all along, not bothered for the awards who attend private universities and universities abroad. The strike is painful, but not suspended till demands are met, for they get their own huge allowances and salaries. So why not the lecturers? That's Adeez's opinion. And this tweet coming from Yemi Da Vinci once again. Mr. Ogundimu, what do you think of the insinuations that governments are crippling universities in order to sell them cheap later? Now, it's very good that you react to the issues raised from the tweets, messages, and the calls. We start with you, Mr. Ogundimu.
Let me start from this very last question being posed to me about what's my opinion about government deliberately crippling the educational system in order to buy maybe our institutions again. Like I was trying to say the other time earlier in the program, that I don't want to believe that government are deliberately killing the educational system in order to have more, the level of poverty and illiteracy much more higher, so that they can continue to have their pass at us and nobody is going to ask them questions. Because education liberates, education brings people to be able to reasonably ask government and make them accountable. So the issue of buying institution is not going to likely to be a kind of realistic notion. Rather, they will build their own private universities. I've been seeing universities being built and owned by generals, and other business people like that, just for the purpose of. I don't want to believe government deliberately cripple the education system so that they can have their private university, more people going there, and deliberately kill the education system, as you have said, but not to buy the institution, deliberately to make the kind of business much more attractive and profitable to only themselves. Because government universities, there's no private university, that's time to be corrected, there's no private university that has the type of structures that government universities across the nation has in place. So I don't see why government university cannot be revamped and refurbished, and we have good and sound education. They have the structures in place already, but they just need a kind of polishing and adding values to them. They are just there. Like I was trying to talk about the issue of having overcrowded class without public address system. Where do you expect to see qualitative education that we are always clamoring for? We are always fast and good at condemning the university, the government. Who's supposed to make education very, very serious and make it a priority is the government, of course. So when you are saying about half-baked graduates, it is not the student, it is not the lecturer. I want to believe it's more of lack of facilities for either research, and somebody was saying something like inconclusive research and things like that. Is it a lecturer that is going to put money down to equip laboratories and other research centers? Of course no, it's the government. So what has this got to do? I don't want to believe ASUU are making unrealistic demand by asking for their welfare. We know how much our senator spends, even when the money was supposed to be meant for the development allowances or other constituency projects. But where are they? Where are any senator? How many senators can tell me these are their constitutional project? These are their constituent project or things like that. So people that are working to actually put their life and their effort to kind of develop the country, which is bringing out well-trained, educated children. Where are they? What do they expect to work with? Are they going to be farming with their bare hands when we can actually make it a kind of mechanized farming? If you want to use the allegory of farming to kind of define educational system and the problem we are having, they can't farm with bare hand. Structures and equipment and facilities need to be put in place to make Nigeria a kind of hub of internationally acknowledged students and graduates, as we have been saying all the while.
All right, Azeez. Thank you. Let me start from this angle. NUC, Nigeria University Commission, they are subjected to the federal government one way or the other. You see, giving license to private universities has also declined the level of education in this country one way or the other. Now, recently I just listened to an advertisement that okay, if you have a 100 in your jump, if you don't have jump score at all, if you don't write jump at all this and that, all because they've set up a school and they want students to at all costs. You understand? Meanwhile, there's no how a private institution will be established that they will not borrow, they will not seek for other public or conventional universities to go and lecture them, and they entice them with reasonable things, welfareism. Automatically, if you are being given an hour to lecture a student in a particular conventional university, and somebody is giving you like 2 hours with a very huge and attractive bogus money, automatically you go there. And meanwhile, the government themselves, who has given room for establishment of private university, is one way or the other, I must sincerely say it, is killing the educational system of this country. And I want to say, if you have ever had any glory or any student or any graduate that's symbolic, recently I just got it from news, a student from Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, who was contemporarily, having a program in America as a matter of scholarship. You understand? This is somebody who was being given a kind of opportunity to have a scholarship as he was being trained in this country. Probably the person can be a genius otherwise. But let's consider other people who did not have this kind of opportunity. The government themselves has to scrutinize, sanitize very well the establishment of private institutions.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. How are you? Fine, thank you, and you? Mr. Joseph, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Joseph.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Taiwan.
Thank you for calling.
Yes. Good morning, I resource person, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I can't, well, I'm forced to agree with you so far, but the bone of contention, one of the bone of contention happens to be this PSA. And any one of you explain to Nigeria why, uh, uh, why is the lecturer shying away from keying into this PSA policy? That's one. Secondly, well, I don't blame lecturers. I've always said it. The only language any government understands is discipline. Right. But this person wants to stay time. Now, considering the status of our economy, which is in Istanbul, what I'm asking is, why can't you just be patient? This government is just about 2 hours or 2 years in office. Why can't you be patient and see what this government will do? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. That's the last call we'll be able to accommodate. We have some messages and tweets to do justice to. Kenny, additional from Ashero, sent in this message. Are we not disturbed by the incessant strike by ASUU and uncomplimentary remarks being passed on our graduates as half-baked? Are there no alternatives to strike? Is it not possible to make every university self-independent to reduce the tide of strike? What of the level of frauds prevalent in our ivory towers? It is disturbing. Government of selfishness and negligence has grossly worsened things in Nigeria, including education. That's Mr. Fashino from Elega. Don't expect patriots and sincere Nigerians to condemn ASUU, but rather selfish and wicked and heartless leaders. That children are not in public universities. Why not honor agreement of 8 years? If ASUU go on strike while school is on holiday, as one suggested, it's like there's no strike. It's a painful pill, so to swallow, but government should be blamed. We should put ourselves in lecturers' shoes, and leaders are wicked. They get their own salaries and bogus allowances and exotic cars. They're still at the. And this other one says, morning to you all in the studio and our guest. I almost 100% give it to them. They've done well. You see, our leaders in Nigeria can know and have refused to know the value of education in Nigeria after they have fully benefited from it during the time of the likes of Babawolo War, when they enjoyed free education and all amenities were in place. But in their own time, reverse is the case. That's why they are sending their children abroad to well-equipped private institutions all over. God bless Nigeria, the States, and Roxy FM. And Yokole Asobra sent in that one. From Adedibigbe Taufik says, as far as I'm concerned, industrial action is the panacea to the issues being fought for by ASUU, and also universities should not be excluded from TSA because the educational sector is full of corruption and corrupt people. Government should prioritize its programs. Over 6 billion naira is being voted for cars from members of the House of Representatives if education is expensive. Let's try ignorance. Bankole Unimole from Ashiro sent in that one. And we wrap it up with this tweet. Bankole Olubaya says 26% of our budget is not too much, but it should be highly monitored, just like the Paris Club loan refund. Mayor of God says, I wonder what Nigeria is becoming in terms of good and proper education. It's high time we focus more. Professor Gola AA says that Oncom should get his facts right. No academic department in FUNAP has a vehicle. Why is he so sentimental about ASUU struggle? Professor Gola AAA, are you sure about that? No academic department has a vehicle, an operational vehicle. Mayor of God once again says, let us fund education for quality and quantity education. We need good facilities and other things to boost our education. Because the standard of education in Nigeria has fallen, please let us all do something. Professor Agolaye says all foreign and local research funds into the universities have all been mopped up in the name of TSA and could not be assessed. Dr. Oncom should know that. And my question is that what is our guest view about the new cutoff mark? How good is it for both institutions and students? And to what effect is students' lackadaisical attitude toward educational intent? All right, I think we'll wrap it up with that message from May of God, quickly, the cut-off mark of the universities?
I think it's still a part of effort on the side of both the government and the university to have a kind of more
Flexible.
yes, more flexibility as far as admission is concerned, so that things
Should
can
it be
just
at the
work.
detriment of quality?
No. Let's put it this way. Maybe the rot in the educational system can just be corrected when we just everybody knows that the level of education is kind of lower now. So if we raise the bar for them too high, they could be academically too lazy to reach the bar and get admitted into the school. So we can just get they can get into the school, and maybe programs are in place to just chop them up and get them more.
Comrade Azeez, what's your own take?
Well, thank you. I think the cut-off mark these days, we cannot use that one to justify the performance or the academic attitude of student these days. Fine, before the jam can resort to such a level, I think they will have done their own visibility study that okay, the number of people that partake in this examination this time around, when we look at it, the number of people that wrote the examination that yes, and automatically they want, why did they give them opportunity to write jam? Is for them to have an admission. And I want to say sometimes ago it's only jam that you write, and once you wrote your jam at that time and you have your
Well,
result,
now they're supposed to
now there is supposed to TME.
So
Automatically,
universities
I
can
want to
screen.
tell you that even this time around, it is not easier for people who had the sight of the jam to do some certain things this time around. And they could see that yes, what we have an achievable result at the end of the day. We cannot use that one because at the end of the day, you see some people that has more enough marks, they are unable to perform at the UTM level.
Alright, it is at that junction I would draw the curtains on the show this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Comrade Oyedele Azeez,
Thank you.
former president, National Association of Ogun State Students. And of course, Mr. Deji Ogundimu, who simply wants to identify himself as a public affairs analyst and social commentator. Thank you. We appreciate every one of you for participating, those who called, those who sent messages. Thank you for keeping faith with us, even though we had a little challenge earlier with our network providers. We appreciate you. Join us again for the Thursday edition tomorrow. 7 a.m. The debate show starts and ends at 11 a.m. I am Tobi Joseph. Have a wonderful Wednesday.
And I am Chienye.